And we're off. What is up, everybody? I am James Hake. This is the Hake Report, and it is 9:01 a.m. U.S. Pacific Daylight Time here in Los Angeles. Gonna have a fun Tuesday show, and we'll talk about just a little bit about like history stuff. I don't know history, but I saw this article for the second time on Pocket, Firefox Pocket. McCarthy was right. Joe McCarthy, wasn't he right? I think he was. But they're touting, the liberal Smithsonian Magazine in Pocket are touting some woman, RINO woman from, I assume she's a RINO. I assume she was a RINO. From way back then, who stood up to her. Give me a break. There's a crazy attack on boys. There's an attack on women who are 1/5 or 1/10 decent, like Amy Barrett in the Supreme Court. It's ridiculous. Because she was part of the People of Praise, and they try to call it a cult. And maybe it was, I don't know. But it is very interesting because they're basing their criticism of her association with this organization, which they may have done some wrong things, but it had nothing to do with her. But it was all based on allegations from like a divorce, a custody hearing. And and I know that women say all kinds of nasty, crazy things about men in those types of hearings. In fact, there was one time a lady said something negative about Trump, one of his ex-wives. And she came back and said, no, I was just mad. I just said that in court. I was mad. That's what I heard. So, all that and your calls, lines are filling up. But anyway, guys, let's get right on with the show!
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La, la, la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La, la, la.
Hey, guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, how are you guys doing? I am fine. JLP, Jesse Lee Peterson, on whose network I stream, or audio feed especially. And in whose studio I use, pointed out my T-shirt, Las Vegas T-shirt. I like to go to Vegas. It's been a while. In fact, there's a Vegas song put out by Bubs Love and the old Hot Computer Smell. I don't know if I should have said that. But anyway, it was excellent. Very cool. I won't say what it says. It just says Las Vegas. That's all you need to see. Because everything else I disavow. Established 1905, that's okay. I just liked the color and the style of, the visuals. Very cool. It's like a light gray. Very nice on a sort of a navy bluish t-shirt. Sort of heathered. Cool. Anyway, didn't mean to spend that much time on that. There were a bunch of super chats that I neglected to read yesterday. I will be reading those. Remind me. I don't want to read them right away, but I will be reading those today here, maybe at the bottom of the hour. But first, before I get into these stories, I want to get to Denny in Bulgaria. Denny, calling in. How are you doing, man?
All is well, Mr. Hake. I hope things are fine with you.
Yes, they are. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Glad to hear. Mr. Hake, I'm calling because I saw a TikTok video on social media about a lady who claims to work in the HR department, in the HR industry. She mentioned that they have like a database, and everyone who are pro-freedom, like they don't want to wear masks and stuff like that, are ending up in a database, and they aren't getting hired later on.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous. and if that's true, I would like to share a story with you and your listeners.
Okay.
I assume you know who Joseph Stalin is.
I've heard of him. A very famous communist from Russia?
From
I think
post-World War, yeah.
Something.
And there is a Jewish doctor called Landau. You can check him. Landau.
Okay.
Lev Landau. And Landau was famous because at the end of Stalinism, at the end of the era of Stalin, he was a brutal dictator. He was responsible for the death of more than 40 million people.
All right.
And Landau, physicist, an army physicist. She was briefing the generals on a project, and Stalin was talking at the same time. She looked at Stalin, and she said, "Keep your mouth shut because I haven't slept in 2 days and I can barely focus." Stalin looked at him back, and he kept his mouth shut. Afterwards, Lavrentiy Beria, who was the head of the secret police in the communist Russia, went to Stalin and asked him, "Should I kill him for talking to you like that?" And Stalin said, "We already killed enough smart people. If we keep killing smart people, this nation will end the next day."
Yeah.
From here on now, Landau can say whatever he wants to say, and we will do whatever he tells us to do until we have somebody smarter. But until then, you will follow what the smart man says. So even Stalin, I know it, even Stalin, who had probably 2 brain cells, even he was able to understand this basic principle.
Nice. He thought like a man in that instance, at least, somewhat.
Yes, at the end, he did. And it's remarkable to see that even a dictator famous for such death and carnage was able to see that. And people who are educated and claim to be tolerant, they are not able to see something so... This is, Mr. Hake, this is absolutely ridiculous. If you hire somebody, you have to hire him or her because this person is a good professional with a proven record.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with him on everything. As a matter of fact, you really don't. This is job-related thing, and it's that simple. Mr. Hake, I really hope the world isn't like this female that I told you about.
Yeah.
And,
that was a female
really
that you
crazy.
saw on TikTok who... Was she bragging that the anti-maskers and independent thinkers were being put on a list and not being hired later, like a blacklist?
She was bragging. She was very happy.
Wow.
And just like Mr. Peterson said, if you see the video, you will know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Just like Mr. Peterson said, all of the evil came out of that. You can, if you see her, her eyes were like hollow, like there wasn't a soul in that person.
Yeah. Wow.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Mr. Hake, thank you for taking my call and for the time. I wish you a remarkable day, and I wish you all the best, sir.
All right. Thank you. Same to you, Denny. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Isn't that a nice story? Crazy stuff going on in the world. Speaking of, and it's been going on for a long time. Speaking of communists, since Denny from Bulgaria brought up communists, I heard that McCarthy, Joseph McCarthy, was right. And I've seen this article before. It was put out in Smithsonian, and I don't know when. It may have been years ago. Firefox puts out, has this organization called Pocket or whatever it is that puts out curated headlines, mostly liberal. Some of it's useful. I don't know. It's a mixed bag sometimes, as with everything. Even Commie Nonsense Network, I find useful. I hope you do too. I wouldn't be sad if they went under, but whatever. I have no ill will towards anyone. This is the headline from that Pocket found Pocket-worthy. The senator who stood up to Joseph McCarthy when no one else would. The mainstream media, and I noticed that history too, when I learned history, had this thing called the Red Scare. They called this thing the Red Scare, meaning there was this scare about communists in the government and in American society and Hollywood and elsewhere. And people suspected communists and communists themselves were getting blacklisted from jobs and all kinds of stuff. It was great, maybe. I wasn't there, so I don't know, really. But Margaret Chase Smith was the first woman to serve in both the House and Senate and always defended her, quote-unquote, values, even when it meant opposing her own party. And this reminds me a lot of the female so-called Republicans. I'm not thinking of Marjorie Greene. I'm not thinking of her, but since I said female Republicans, that made me think of her. But I'm thinking of the more RINO females who have been ones to capitulate to the Democrats and say, oh, let's work together. Let's, what is that called? Compromise. Let's be female-minded, intellectuals. This is from Smithsonian Magazine originally by Lorraine Boissonneau. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Nick, how do you pronounce Boissonneault? Boissonneau. Something like that. Margaret Chase Smith became the first woman ever to serve both in the House of Representatives and the Senate, and the first so-called senator to stand up against Joseph McCarthy's Red Scare. And here's a quote that they highlight from her, and it sounds kind of reasonable, intellectual. And maybe she has a good point. I don't know. But I'm very leery because there is a whole lot of attacks and mocking of the people who were fighting for America against what were called communists back then. And I use the term commies, commie capitalism. Some people think that that's a oxymoron. And they are right. I am an ox and a moron, to quote Oscar, or some guy in Oscar. But it is true, though, because we all know, if you listen to Bill Lockwood or anybody knowledgeable on this stuff, capitalism is a stepping stone to communism. It is. It's a stepping stone. They use it, subvert it, take away the morals, take away the Christianity, take away the men, take away the whites, take away the innocence of the children, and boom, it's the corrupt people bribed out of their own freedom, bribed out of their own manhood, bribed out of their own real religion. What a mess, huh? Bribed out of their innocence in various ways. Bill Lockwood, LOLOLOL. No, LOL back at ya. Shoot. Sorry, kids. Anyway, here's this quote. It is high time we stopped thinking politically as Republicans and Democrats, says this woman, about elections, and started thinking patriotically as Americans about national security based on individual freedom, this woman said. That's her quote. And, national security based on individual freedom. Very interesting. Those words could be applied against the Patriot Act, right? The Patriot Act was a unpopular on many sides move pushed by W and the establishment, Republicans and maybe Democrats against, and I think Obama used it, to spy on Americans and take away their rights in the name of so-called national security, right? And I don't know. But anyway, those national security based on individual freedom. And what is she talking about? I've read it, and I may be reading too much into it, as the quote-unquote freedom to be communist. And communism is anti-American, right? We all know this, I guess. Those words spoken by Margaret Chase Smith, freshman senator from Maine. Those Maine senators. Isn't there a female senator from Maine? I'm blanking on her name. I think so. Those words never mentioned Joseph McCarthy, just like a woman, an underhanded, backhanded jab at Joseph McCarthy, the hero who exposed communism in America, but much smeared and much maligned in the government. And I don't know much about him. Some of you guys do know more about him than I. It was abundantly clear to all who listened that her criticisms were leveled directly at him, even though she was indirect with her chat. Her speech represented a highlight for the congressional maverick with a career full of similar moments of bipartisanship. Bipartisanship usually means evil. It's a fact. Yeah, Susan Collins, thank you, Robbie. Shout out to the Facebook crew. Indeed, yes, Matt. Living the dream. Earlier that day, June 1st, 1950. Wow, 1950. We had a female in the Senate in 1950? We need to go back further than the 50s, guys. You know, some of you guys say, we need to go back to the 50s. Not with this woman in there. Terrible. Earlier that day, June 1st, 1950, Smith had bumped into the bombastic Wisconsin senator, I guess that's Joseph McCarthy, as they made their way to work. Only 4 months earlier, Joseph McCarthy, had delivered an inflammatory, meaning truth-telling, my guess, speech claiming 205 people working in the State Department of the United States were secretly communists. Since then, Smith had been closely following his words and actions, meant to undermine the Democrat Party and seed suspicion everywhere. Well, we should be watching people in the Republican and Democrat Party and in Hollywood and in the mainstream media and ourselves. According to so-called journalist Marvin Kalb, the senator's interaction that morning, June 1st, 1950, was a prelude of what was to come. McCarthy regarded Smith and noted, "Margaret, you look very serious. Are you going to make a speech?" "Yes, and you will not like it," she said. I don't know how her voice sounded. I have not really looked into her. She passed out copies of her speech. In other words, she read it, didn't speak from the heart. To the press gallery, Smith approached the Senate floor and began her declaration of conscience. She addressed what she saw as McCarthy's dangerous accusations and the partisan bickering that it resulted in. Well, think about how partisan bickering we are now with all these females who kiss up to this fake unity. You know? Those of us who shout the loudest about Americanism, this is from her speech, I guess, making character assassinations, are all too frequently those who, by their own words and acts, ignore some of the basic principles of Americanism, Margaret Smith said, in another thinly veiled jab at McCarthy's tactics. Importantly, she was also quick to point out that the Truman administration had indeed failed to do enough to prevent the spread of communism at home and abroad. But her conclusion called on all politicians, regardless of party affiliation, to stand for the defense of civil liberties. It is high time that we stopped being tools and victims of totalitarian techniques. If continued here unchecked, they will surely end in what we have come to cherish as the American way of life. What a dummy, huh? I say. Anyway, she got reelected. Okay, so how she became a so-called senator, her political career began shortly after she married Clyde Harold Smith, who was elected to the House of Representatives in 1936, 14 years before this mess, right? She traveled with her husband, or 15 years maybe, to Washington, D.C. She managed his office. In 1940, before the end of his term, he asked Margaret to run for his seat just before he died of a fatal heart condition. So she married him, and then she killed him within like 5 years. Wow. Very convenient, huh? I don't know if she killed him, I'm just saying. She won the special election to finish his term, and then she won her own full term in Congress. And then repeatedly won re-election over the course of 8 years and then became a senator. What a mess, huh? She supported FDR's Lend-Lease program, whatever that is, but FDR, I'm leery. Franklin D. Roosevelt, not the good Roosevelt. There was a decent Roosevelt before him, I think, Theodore Roosevelt. I hear that he was decent, although he was in support of women voting, I heard. But you got to do, so is Trump. Sometimes you got to, I don't know. I don't know if you have to, but whatever. I say McCarthy was right. Anyway, I appreciate it. I will be getting to your calls, 888-775-3773. But let me talk a little bit more. Oh, you know what? Let me read some super chats. Before I forget, it's 20 after here. Got to read these. Danimal said with a super chat, Hake, hey Hake, great work. Shout out to the chat and crew and callers. Thank you, Danimal. Appreciate that, man. Let's see. Kyle B with the super chat on streamlabs.com/The Hake Report. Did you see where Fox News is celebrating so-called Gay Pride Month and also hawking Coca-Cola at NASCAR Memorial Day celebration? The only ones at Fox not being good slaves is Laura, as in Ingram, Tucker, as in Tucker Carlson, and Sean Hannity. Wow, really nice. Well, thank you, Kyle B. Even in a dark place, there is a light. I appreciate that. Asmodor with the super chat, a few super chats yesterday, referring to my callers yesterday, some of my callers yesterday. I had a guy who was purportedly a black Hebrew Israelite, and he called in all excited because I quoted Benjamin Franklin using the term swarthy for some like Swedes and others. Swarthy meant dark skin, right? Not as in black though, but he liked that word, swarthy. And Asmodor called in, gave some super chats to correct the record on his misinformation because he was saying America is only 2%. The world is only 2% white, the world population. I don't think that's true. And so I started to read some super chats, and I didn't even say it was from Asmodor, but right away, John from Kentucky said, I don't care what Asmodor has to say. He's an idiot. And so we hung up the call, and I started reading. And so Asmodor states, John, like all low IQ liars, is afraid to engage with me because I can back up everything I post here on Odyssey, ODYSEE.com/@the-Hake-Report. And Asmodor corrects the record on the world population of whites. 16% of the world's population is white. That 2% number refers to the number of white females of childbearing age. Wow. And shares a link from Malaysian Digest. Interesting. Wow. Interesting. Thank you. And another from Asmodor correcting a different caller, Rick from Maine, who called in and shouted him out. Rick from Maine was talking about the invasion yesterday into America by these Latinos. You know, like the biggest caravan ever, possibly up to 15,000 people who are not welcome here, in my opinion and in Rick's opinion. Well, Asmodor states they are indeed welcome. Our rulers love them. We're no longer a government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's against the people. It's a government against the people. They consider the taxpayer nothing more than expendable cattle. Indeed. That is a fair point. They are welcome. Not by me, not by Rick, not by most of us on the Hake Report live chat. Maybe some of you. But they are welcomed by the RINOs and the Democrats and the commie capitalists. That's what I call them. Thank you. CC gave a super chat on streamlabs.com/The Hake Report. We can't just sit and watch it all fall apart. We should protest in every state about the things that are going on in this country, the gas prices and everything that's going wrong, with a question mark. You got to watch out with the protests. Yeah, you can do it if you're doing it in an orderly way and watching and being very self-policing maybe. There are other things you can do beyond protest. Live right is the first one. Get yourself right. And you can pressure the politicians, confront them in the right way. JLP interviewed that guy, and you don't have to do it like him, but he interviewed that guy, Alex Stein, 99, who goes to these a lot of these city councils, very corrupt places, school boards, very corrupt. Board of supervisors of the county, very corrupt. And in some places, if you just do business there, say you go to the grocery store there, you have the right, according to how they set things up, to go and put in your name and speak. And they give you like a minute or 90 seconds or 3 minutes or however long. And you can speak your mind and come at them. I went to Glendale and confronted the people. Not that it did anything, but I don't know if it did or didn't do anything. Because just because the results, the immediate results aren't what you want, it could be a spark of truth to awaken people. So don't be, but yeah, nice, Sion. But do watch out. Because just because the left, the so-called left, is allowed to protest and riot, any big protest that we do, they smear it. Look at the truckers. They smeared the truckers up in beautiful Canada, although they did it pretty well. Quite well, overall, I think. The January 6th, mostly peaceful Capitol protest, very patriotic. A little bit of it got a little bit out of hand. And the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, it got out of hand, but it wasn't really through the fault of them. Some of them were a little eager to fight and mosh with the evil Antifa people who were attacking them. But you're gonna get character smeared, and they will use it as more of an excuse to clamp down on the rights of the people. They'll use anything. It's so sick. But again, thank you, CC. I appreciate your concern for the country and the state of Georgia. Very nice. That's cool. Before I get, you know what? Let me get to a call here. Joe from Phoenix, Arizona is on the line about a call a week ago or two. Joe from Phoenix, how are you doing?
Good morning, James.
Hey.
It's already ridiculously hot here. 116 this weekend. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. Anyway, I was calling in last week. I called in. We talked about the railroads. And Chris was saying how, it was white people who curated the railroads.
Mm-hmm.
Black people and Chinese were just the labor.
Not just blacks, but he said by and large, yes, but he also said that whites were much of the labor as well. But yeah.
Yeah, there certainly were. There certainly were some white folks doing the labor too, but you might want to look up Granville T. Woods and Elijah McCoy, electromechanical braking system for the trains and the coupling system. So it wasn't just white folks who were creating and designing the railroad.
I know, but by and large, whites built America. Like we set it up. Not we, as in me, but they set it up. They built it. So.
This is just the point I'm making, James, that black history is important because it's clear you guys don't know much of it at all. So you have the idea that, it's just labor, right?
But there's no such thing as black history.
Well, that is true. History does not have a color.
Right.
My point is that, just be aware that black people contributed a lot more than just labor to the building of this country.
But we all know that. Like, there were some, back in the day, there were some sensible, but no, like you're arguing against this imaginary scarecrow of white racism where we are quite fair-minded with everyone. We being, I can speak on behalf of me, myself, Chris, and JLP, quite fair, but you, in your imagination, you think we're denigrating and lying about blacks and and trying to diminish their and downplay any accomplishment that some occasional one does.
See, this is it right there.
I know, but still, like, because right now they're being overly propped up. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I wouldn't. Who's doing the propping? And
The mainstream. We have a culture of white and POC and everybody else, which is everything, right? We being America and the world at large, the so-called West, is overly kissing up, bending over backwards to cater to blacks and POCs and overly celebrate them for wrong things.
I would disagree.
You don't see that?
Week, though, I don't want to see white people either.
Did you not see the crazy hyperventilating in worship when Obama got elected, the first so-called black president of the United States?
That's because it was a historical moment, James.
That's not historical. That's not the right kind of history. That's shallow. It's a shallow celebration based on shallow appearances.
You and I don't agree on Obama at all. I base it on his actual record, and you just don't like him because he's black.
No, that's not the case, buddy.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, so you're lying about me. You're lying about whites.
I'm talking about you specifically, not white people.
I know, but you have no idea what's in my heart.
Yeah, you judge my heart every time.
Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Exactly, and that
right.
applies to you. You speak.
I know, but there's been no indication that my beef with Obama is that because he's black. Makes no sense, buddy.
Then when you tell half-truths and you lie about his track record and you constantly say false things about him, that speaks of your heart.
No,
Absolutely.
I don't say false things about him. You just described what you do with him. You tell half-truths, you lie about his record, you don't tell the whole truth, you pretend that he was good on immigration, that he was tough on immigration when he clearly wasn't. You pretend that he was not for abortion when he clearly was. You lie all the time.
Under Obama.
What?
Those are just facts.
I know, it's a cherry-picked fact. It's a half-truth. Facts are not the whole truth because you cherry-pick a fact to pretend that he was responsible for bringing down abortion.
I never said he was responsible. I never said that. I simply said.
I know. Then why bring it up? Why bring it up? Then if it had nothing to do with him,
increased under him.
If abortion coming down had nothing to do with him, why do you bring up the abortion statistic under his watch?
Because as much as you love to say that he said he was for it and that he wouldn't want his daughters to pay for a mistake they made, he also said he wanted to see fewer abortions and more adoptions and more fostering. And that's what happened.
But that's not what happened, and that's not his doing.
It is what happened.
No, it's not.
It is what happened. The facts are clear on that.
But you just admitted that it had nothing to do with him.
But yet you want to paint him as this rabid abortionist.
He was a rabid abortionist. He expanded. The first thing he did in office was start paying again for abortions overseas or abortions out of
we talked about that. And you know
I know,
that
you make excuses for you make excuses for that too.
And you know, it's not an excuse, it's just a fact.
You make excuses for that too, just because he's black.
See? You're cherry picking and lying about it because you.
No, you're making excuses for him expanding abortions.
About the other things, not abortion itself.
You make excuses for him expanding abortions.
Happens all the time, James.
It happens all the time that you make excuses for blacks doing wrong, like Obama.
Never ever.
Yep.
I've always been the one saying that ghetto culture is not black culture, and I bring up constantly to you how Chris Rock joked about that. Nobody hates N-words more than good, honest, hardworking black people like myself.
And that's what your problem is. You're a hater.
Try that.
That's your problem.
Joke,
that you're a hater.
It's a joke. Understand the mentality behind it.
You hate both the decent and the indecent.
Nobody is harder on ghetto culture than me. Nobody.
You're also hard on the truth. You don't like the truth.
What is the truth, James? You have no relationship with the truth at all. You are guessing.
See? You just lied.
No, it's truth.
No, it's
That's
not.
just the fact.
No, it's not.
You guys love to denigrate, stereotype, and lie about black people.
Now
Most.
you're lying.
Not all, but most. And then you lie about it. It's
No,
just simple as
you're
that.
the type of person that I talk about every day. The phony, female-minded intellectual who makes excuses for evil.
The more you insult me, the more I know I'm exactly on the right path. Because evil people like you and Jesse attack what's good, right?
So you don't know that you're on the right path in yourself. You have to rely on your hatred of me to confirm that you think that you're on the right path.
Wrong. It's just further evidence. That's all it is.
No, that's not evidence, buddy.
It absolutely is evidence.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense, Joe. Do you want to talk to this guy, Chris? He's trying to accuse you of. Let's just bring in Chris
second.
for a second.
I don't want to talk that much. What was your history lesson this time, Joe? Who were the guys?
Granville T. Woods and Elijah McCoy.
And what'd they do?
Granville T. Woods, he had not first, but one of the patents on the electromechanical brake for train coupling systems. And, Elijah McCoy was the train coupling systems.
Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
They made them. They got the patent for it.
Correct. Meaning they were the inventors. Yeah.
Getting the patent for it doesn't mean you're the inventor of it. You know that,
usually
right?
It does, Chris. Absolutely.
Right. Anyhow, I guess the only reason I wanted to even say anything was, again, I made this point before, like we'll talk about something, whites did this, and like I'll generalize about, white country X, Y, and Z, which I mean is totally legit. And then like you'll come in and just be like, oh, you don't know about this. Like I have to shoehorn in black inventors, and you must hate blacks because you're just talking about white people. It's just nonsense. I'm sick of it.
You're generalizing what you're mischaracterizing what I said. The only reason I called in with those examples is because you said, and you did say this, that black people were just the laborers. It was the whites who created the railroads and designed them and all that.
By and large, is that true?
Yeah, I'm generalizing once again. I mean, am I wrong about that?
Generalizing can be generally wrong, and that's what I'm calling.
Am I generally wrong about that, Joe?
It's generally true.
This is unreal.
When you say, Chris, that black people were just the labor, and that those were your words last week, yes, that's wrong.
So largely in part, they were not mostly just the labor? So you named two guys who got patents on some machinery? Like they built a bearing or something like that, and they got a patent on it, and you want to say they built the railroads? Is this a joke, Joe?
Trying to minimize it, and it's not the case at all.
He's describing it accurately.
I'm generalizing something, and you even said 80%, which is low. I would, when we're generalizing about
trains need brakes, you realize that, right?
Of course I know that, Joe. My goodness, Joe. And a brake on an entire train system. What does it? A brake on an entire train system, is that a teeny tiny fraction of it?
No, it isn't. It's a very important part of it.
Unreal, dude. And I remember you saying like 80. You estimated that 80% of
the country
the country was made by white. Is that small? Is that a small amount?
No, I said 80% of the population back then was probably white. Like that.
I think
it was 90 plus, Joe. Are you out of your mind?
It was an estimate. I said I didn't know, and I'd have to go and look it up, Chris. Are you out of your mind?
That is, you don't know that, Joe? You don't know that. You know so much, and you don't know that the country has mostly been 90+% white. I mean, until almost the 70s.
Yeah.
I don't think it was the 70s, but... Again,
65 was the Hart-Celler Act.
Look it up.
It had to take time to get the people coming here, so 65 at least.
Yeah, the Immigration Act of 1965.
The point is, again, I wasn't saying that 80% was built. I said it was 80% of population is what I was saying. So if it was 90, fine. I have no stake in that argument.
Fine. But, I mean, I'm
just, but
I'm just sick
you
of...
act like we're so ignorant.
I'm sick of hearing like this undermine, come in, like you're totally wrong. You're totally wrong. I'm just not hearing. I'm not hearing it, Joe. I'm not hearing it anymore.
I think what he's doing is he's eager to just nitpick your words because this is like
what
they did with
Trump. You can put your head in the sand all you want to, Chris. But the fact is,
and I will, Joe, and I will continue to do that.
Yeah, and go right ahead, and I'll continue to call in to be that Socratean like gadfly to try to open your eyes.
And you will fail, as you have failed the Conservative Party.
Well, go ahead and keep embracing ignorance then.
I'm not embracing ignorance. You're embracing a dead ideology is what you're embracing.
I have a 20-plus year track record.
I don't care about that. Are we more liberal since you've been alive, or are we less?
Come close to. I can point to actual legislation that I had a part in that made things better. You cannot.
I don't care about that, Joe. I don't care about that.
Of course you don't, because it's a point you can't refute.
But you're not.
Congratulations!
Right.
I'm not trying to refute that point.
You just want to get on the radio and denigrate, stop people and minimize them and all that, the same way Jesse does. But that's what motivates.
But you're assigning motivations that you imagine in us.
We're trending down, and you're trying to highlight like, oh, I've done this, I've done that. Great, man.
To the heart. The words speak to the heart.
But you don't have any sense. You have no eyes to see or ears to hear what we're really saying.
Your hatred of black people, James. Period.
If you were really, Joe, be serious. If you were really for what's right, if you were really for what's right, you would see that JLP's coming from the right place, and that we're just for spreading the truth. Jeez, what in the world? Sorry, kids.
You don't spread any truth. All you do is lie, denigrate, and stereotype most black people with no facts, no understanding, no logic, no reason whatsoever. And you do that because that's going to bring in the hate dollars and the hate chat.
Hate dollars. You sound like Media Matters or Right Wing Watch or one of those
organizations. You might
organizations.
want to think about why Patreon banned you.
You might want to think about why those people are part of the destruction of America.
Why they platform trannies.
So everyone else
is
wrong, and only you were right then, James, right?
Okay. I never said that. It doesn't even make sense. That's not even a logical follow-up to what I said. But thanks, Joe.
Else is wrong,
all right, yeah, I'm good here.
You were right. Sure.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, take care, man.
Hide, Chris. Keep that head in the sand.
Okay, yeah, that's what's going on. Brandon M. says, coupling systems were invented by the Greeks in 300 BC. Railroad couplers were patented by Eli Jenny, not black. And he said something about brakes. I don't know if that's different or similar. Reading some super chats here. I just mentioned about railroad couplers. Ledge Klinger with a super chat says, whew, whew, whew. I don't know how to pronounce it. Whew. W-H-U-E-W. Whew. Fire! With a fire emoji. Give Chris a show ASAP, says Ledge Klinger with a super chat. Thank you, Ledge Klinger. Uncle Ted 88. Chris needs to come on TKR with Asmodor for a show. That would be great, says Uncle Ted 88. That's kind. Right on. Our last call with Joe, where Chris corrected the record on who built America. I'm just looking for that right now because it was. I feel like I put it in the article. I mean, in the title. I can't find it right now. But anyway, I can dig that up and let you guys know. I'll put it in the blog post, how about? Because that was a pretty good conversation. Correcting the record about all that stuff, you know? Silly. It's a silly world where there's no appreciation for whites. No white appreciation, you know? And there is excess pandering and kissing up. Who built the USA? June 2nd, Thursday. Okay, I think that was just second to last day last week. So that's where that was. Thursday, June 2nd, 2022 AD. Let me cover this little story here. It's not a story, it's an article. Another one pushed out by Pocket. And greatergood.berkeley.edu. Why sensitivity is a strength in boys. I think it's Berkeley. It's an article by Elise Gabriel. Elisse. Gabriel, June 3rd. It's time to shift the paradigm about sensitivity in boys and recognize how it improves their relationships and supports their well-being. And this woman, Elise Gabriel, writes, my sons, Noah and Aiden, now bona fide adults, are perceptive, empathetic, intuitive, compassionate, caring. All great qualities, right? I don't know about that. But if I'd simply told you they were sensitive, would this word have conjured up a different image? Nope, same thing. A traditionally feminine trait, sensitivity has been equated with weakness, but it's actually a major strength if properly matured in boys. And so this article will cover why sensitive boys make strong and effective leaders, have more sophisticated interpersonal skills, can tune into the world around them, and develop resilience by fully showing up. That's such a feminine word. I don't know. It's kind of cliche. Have greater life satisfaction, need us to help model and support and guide them. Sensitive boys need us. Who's us? To help support, model, and guide them. This woman, Wendy Firestone, a licensed school psychologist in Ohio, worked with children more than 30 years. I'm shaking my head. No wonder we've gotten better or worse with the likes of her. Psychologists like her, school psychologists. I don't think that there were school psychologists 30 years ago. Maybe in Ohio. Maybe. I think sensitivity is more of an awareness, having social perception while being able to express a depth of emotion. Something we used to define more as of a female trait. Sensitivity can feel like both a blessing and a curse when kids are younger, because they have these strong feelings that can really feel bad and sad. But when they get older, if they're willing to embrace that characteristic, this ability can become a superpower. Because why? Because you can exploit and manipulate people and be like Obama. Obama was very engaging in person, I am told, by Bill O'Reilly. When he met him, he tried to ask him a question and he just cajoled him. Cajoled? Is that a word? Cajoled him, if that's a word, if I'm using that word correctly. And Bill O'Reilly's like, that guy is a clever snake in the grass. I'm putting words in Bill O'Reilly's mouth, but very charming. And it's no wonder the mainstream media, that plus the fact he was black and liberal and a communist, enemy of America, they loved him. Crazy, huh? Maybe that's what she meant by superpower. Richard Shaw, professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Stanford University, notes that we need to rethink sensitivity from an evolutionary vantage point. Oh gosh, evolution. Being sensitive when you were a caveman was not a good thing. They always go to the caveman thing. Stupid. But now we have to change and adapt to a world that's more relationship-based. Men's primary roles are no longer killing animals for food, but being able to develop interactive teams and effectively collaborate to have a functioning society. Dumb. Reminds me of that evil woman whom I told you about. I'm calling her evil, I'm assuming. That RINO female who called out Joseph McCarthy because we need to collaborate and allow communists the freedom to be communists in America and subvert us. You know, people who are pro-free speech, I've debated with guys, males who are liberals and LGBT and all that stuff. Jangles most recently, last Wednesday. And he said that he's for free speech. I think it was him. Maybe it was a woman. I forget. Sounds, almost recall it being a woman. Saying, free speech can get too out of hand, right? If you go on 4chan, it's so free, so much free speech, it's filled with poison, and you can't really, I don't know what her or his, Jangles being the male that I might have been debating, limiting free speech and being very vague about it. And I'm for freedom really to tell the truth. I wouldn't mind a clampdown on un-American activities, right? Un-American activities being a reference to the communist stuff. But there is just, it's really good versus evil. You can cringe all you want at my commie thing, and I don't mind that. I won't hold that against you. Some people call it anti-white. Some people call it various things, right? But it's the demon rats. But it's also the rhinos. And it's in many of us, too. Like, you have to overcome the evil. What was my point? Oh, yeah, these people are not actually for freedom of speech. They're just for freedom of speech until they can rule over the Christians. They're for, the ACLU pretended to be for freedom of speech when they were touting communism and pornography and all kinds of evil. And then they're clamping down on so-called hate speech. They haven't said a word. Has the ACLU fought against the social media censorship? I don't think so. I think, in fact, they've fought against it. They've fought against Trump, a man who spoke freely, telling the truth, basically. And that's why they hated him. It's ridiculous. People overreacting to men like JLP and Trump and Sheriff Arpaio, men who stood up for the country. It's kind of like the taking away of the guns of the men. Taking away of the individuality. What about that individual rights stuff, right? National security based on individual rights. Individual right to carry guns. Own and carry quite capable guns. But no, let's think like women. Rather than lead through force or fear, leaders who possess sensitivity know how to relate to people and understand their needs and exploit their insecurities, right? Sensitive individuals are more adept at helping others feel seen and heard. Terrible. As a result, their leadership appears fluid rather than forced, inclusive rather than separatist. It's like an imitation of being perceptive, because you can perceive things in people. You can sense a snake. You can sense something off about a person and ask them about it, confront it, or just watch it and deal with it as it comes. But this is a different thing from what they're pushing, I think. Because they're pushing for men to become sensitive in this wrong way. Men who possess sensitivity tend to have better social reciprocity, the interaction between people on a socially meaningful level, whatever that means. They pick up on nonverbal nuances of communication and dialogue. Plus, people feel more validated by them because they feel more of an emotional connection, said this evil woman. Well, I say she's evil. Firestone. Wendy Firestone, licensed school psychologist for 30 years, or worked with children for more than 30 years in Ohio. Not good. Vulnerability can actually help build resilience. Beth Steinberg says, a psychologist and psychoanalyst in San Francisco, has witnessed the profound transformation of her male clients. Male clients going to her. Yikes. When allowing themselves to be vulnerable, an aspect of sensitivity. Vulnerability is construed as a weakness for men, while it actually promotes strength. When you're vulnerable, you don't have to cut yourself off from things. Blah, 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 blah. Brene Brown. Are they only quoting females? Literally just shamelessly only quoting female so-called experts in this? greatergood.berkeley.edu. Very rigorous work. Phony intellectuals. It's phony. It's fake. It's a mess. But that's them. That's the type of stuff you get. Turn on the AC. It is getting hot in here. Let me move on. I think I'm tired of this article. But thank you for bearing with me through that. And thank you, Nick, in advance for I am sensitive to the heat. Let me get to Amy Barrett. Speaking of females, and I'm not a fan of Amy Barrett. You all know that. I mock her, and rightly so. She cried or acted to cry, pretended to cry on when she was being interviewed to join the Supreme Court, showing her sensitivity and kissing up to the Black Lives Matter stuff after George of Florida had the knee on his neck or shoulder blade area, or both, saying, oh, I have 2 black kids. Be quiet, woman. And I get it. You do say what you need to say to make it sometimes in the world, play the game, right? But she doesn't belong in the Supreme Court. She was trending on Twitter, I think yesterday morning. And there was this old article from The Guardian, far-left foreign outlet, The Guardian, in 2020, revealed ex-members of Amy Coney Barrett's faith group. They call her Coney Barrett. That's her maiden name, Coney. She's married now and has a bunch of kids, some of them adopted. A faith group, her old faith group, ex-members tell of trauma and sexual abuse. And there's a radical homosexual outlet, MSN, there it is. Look at that. Going after her, trying to just link her to this mess. And look at the whole Democrat Party. That's a whole trauma and sexual abuse party. By and large. And many of the RINOs, too, the establishment. Washington, D.C. itself, very corrupt, very sick. California. The radical homosexual outlet Raw Story, MSN, Microsoft News or whatever, MSN, is sharing a Raw Story article out yesterday, June 6th. Court documents shed light on secretive Christian sect tied to Amy Coney Barrett. And it's an article by this John K. Byrne, who's, oh no, I don't know if it's an article by him, but Raw Story was founded by this John K. Byrne, founder and chairman and CEO, and Michael Rogers, vice chairman. They outed as quote-unquote gay numerous politicians and political staff who voted or advocated against so-called gay rights in the mid-2000s. That's what Raw Story did. Sick people, huh? Among the first was Republican Congress male Ed Schrock, a Republican from Virginia. And if that's even true, they did not respect the right of the people to stay quiet about their issues. No, they tried to out them. And in many cases, there are people who fake stuff or accuse and all kinds of dirty things. That takes a filthy person, a liar. So these people are they're considered even by Wikipedia, Raw Story, a junk news outlet. Crazy, huh? Anyway, they put out this thing to smear Amy Barrett, who is a Christian lady. And I use the term lady a little bit loosely, because a real lady I don't think would be involved in this stuff, politics and becoming judges and Supreme Court justices and stuff, especially with the young children. Give me a break. But The Guardian, June 6th, legal claims shed light on founder of faith group tied to Amy Barrett. The description of, and let me just read the first couple of paragraphs. Examination of the people of praise comes as the Supreme Court seems poised to reverse Roe v. Wade. And so they're coming out with hit pieces against the so-called conservative justices. So this is phony. This is an article by Stephanie Kirchgeisner, U.S. investigations correspondent. Kirchgeisner. Probably not a Christian, by the way. S. Kirchy is her Twitter handle. But don't harass her. I laugh because I don't have to say that, because our people are cool. The founder of People of Praise, a secretive, charismatic Christian group that counts the Supreme Court Justice Amy Barrett as a member, they call her Amy Coney Barrett, was described in a sworn affidavit. Sworn affidavit. Okay. Sworn affidavit was what many people signed and swore, talking about the election shenanigans, sworn affidavits. Sometimes they can serve as evidence, and sometimes it's just hearsay, I guess. Or maybe it's all hearsay, but it might not be true. Because how do you prove that somebody lied? It's hard to. Filed in the 1990s, exerting almost total control, this Christian group exerting almost total control over one of the group's female members, making all decisions about her finances and dating relationships. Court documents described alleged instances of sexualized atmosphere in the home of the founder and his wife. The description of this founder and his wife and their family, I guess, maybe, and accusations involving their intimate behavior were contained in a 1993 proceeding in which a woman, this is interesting, to me it is, Cynthia Karnick said that she did not want her 5 minor children to have visitations with their father, a mother trying to keep the children away from the father, John Roger Karnick, who was then a member of this People of Praise group. In the household of these founders, Ranigan is the name of the founders, last name of the founders, or in their presence, because she believed it was not in her children's best interest, as if this woman, as if this woman knows what's up. It's so common for women to pretend like they know what's in the best interest, and then they end up supporting the children turning transgender and stuff. Cynthia Karnick, this woman trying to keep her children away from the father way back in the early 90s, also described inappropriate incidents involving the couple and Ranigan children. The matter was eventually settled between the parties. That's an example of the woman making all kinds of claims. We don't know if it's true or not. To keep the children from the father. And I mentioned a woman accused Trump, and then the media tried to report it, and this woman came out and was like, and I forget which of his ex-wives it was, right? I disavow having ex-wives, but whatever. And said, oh no, I love Trump. Trump's ex-wife, to this day, loves him. I'm shaking my head.
To this day!
I'm shaking my head at the dirty, nasty, anti-American, anti-man media. And females, right? Not all. Amy Barrett is 50, and she lived with the founders of this People of Praise group in South Bend, Indiana. Interesting, huh? South Bend, Indiana is where that radical homosexual transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, was mayor fairly recently. From mayor to the head of the Department of Transportation, mayor of South Bend, Indiana. She was attending law school and living at their home, right? According to public records. She was known back then just as Amy Coney. She graduated from Notre Dame Law School, Notre Dame, in 1997, and 2 years later married Jesse Barrett. So she became Amy Barrett. And he appears to have lived in that household too. No indication, though, that Amy Barrett lived in the house at the time that the Karnick children were visiting or witnessed any of the alleged behavior described in the court documents by the evil wife. I'm assuming evil, right? By the evil wife making accusations in order to take the children from her father. So what are you even bringing it up for? Just spreading a bunch of gossip to smear and intimidate and try to mess with, the abortion stuff, the abortion decision that's coming up. We'll see what happens with this abortion decision. Guys, we are over the top of the hour. I didn't even realize it. It's time for some music, and I will get to more of your calls, but it is the hidden cameras coming up, guys. I disavow the hidden cameras. And I'm not even going to name the name of this song, and I don't think you'll be able to tell what the name of the song is, unlike some others. But enjoy or press mute or cover your ears or leave the room. As far as this particular song goes, I don't know that you can tell that it's anything bad, but irregardless, which is not a word, it's nice music. It's just satanic message. So anyway, I'll be back for the rest of hour 2 All musicians are liberal Satanists. Hang tight, guys. See you soon. Enjoy. Or not.
Happy we are when we choose to wear the blindfold and mark our day with a parade and a song. In our minds, our fathers have died, and we realize cities have clubs, and we like to get drunk and high from the smelly air, from dirty wet nails, and the night on the bar, we smoke cigarettes and it's time to smell like hay, like a drug done in a darkened hall, or a bathroom stall with a friend, or a man with a heart on a beat by a face with a suit, with a taste of the neck on a boy who is up to toilet and shaves every day and behaves well in department stores. As well as the smell of the cum on the rug, then walk their dirty feet on, and the sweat from the chest of a man in a leather uniform. Happy are we when we choose to wear the blindfold and mark our place with the smell of our
Well, wasn't that nice, guys? Yes, those were nice guys. Which is not good. Terrible, huh? Terrible. No, you're not supposed to listen to the lyrics. I forgot to tell you guys not to listen to the lyrics. Satanic as usual, says Misty over there on D-Live. Shout out to the D-Live crew, even though you can't even support me there. I love Hake's little music videos, says Luca. Thank you, man. It's Earl, says Wilfrey, referring to the squirrel in the beginning of the first video that I showed. If you were watching the video, I showed, homemade videos, I guess. Not exactly home. I love Hake's little music, says Jib Jab. Thank you, sir. Thank you kindly. There are some super chats here as well, guys. Brandon M. Correcting the record even more so. The two most common types of railroad brakes were invented by Malcolm Lougheed and George Westinghouse. Westinghouse. Trains do need brakes, Joe. You also need brakes for your Dunning-Krugers. Nice, Brandon M. Nice to hear from you. Appreciate that. Lord Bibby42 asks, Hake, is Joe the heck? I'm censoring it. Happy the heck month to ya. Big the heck, Joe. Sorry, kids. I don't know if I should say that word. Just replace the heck with gee. Thank you, Lord Baby 42. Forgive me or please pardon my butchering your super chat on purpose. I don't like that stuff, man. But I appreciate it, Lord Baby 42. He also says, Chris Saturday is on fire. Chris, how much do you think Joe can bench with his little limp wrists? He says not much. Obama hated America, so blacks like Joe loves him, says John WX25 with a super chat. Justice Thomas is the greatest living black man, so blacks like Joe, Tony, John, Jeremiah, and Mays hate him. I don't know if Joe from Phoenix, Arizona hates Justice Thomas. I mean, if he hates thugs, or at least thug culture, and he clearly, even though he pretends not to, hates JLP, then yeah, he hates Justice Thomas. Hatred in your heart, man. Anyway, Noah's Ark, Kansas gave a super chat. And it with an interesting amount. Thank you, sir. Here is my little racist super chat in honor of Mama Joe. Wow. I was going to think up something racist. Joe is getting me those hate dollars. Joe from Phoenix. He says, keep on making those hate dollars. He speculates. Tends to speculate, huh? Tends to speculate and lie and come up with fake things based on his imagination. I was going to think up something racist to say, but but I only have so many moments in life. I will say Joe is not very entertaining, says Noah's Ark, Kansas. Well, thank you, man. Great to hear from you, sir. Very kind. Very kind. Let me just double check over here on the stream, on the Odyssey. Whoa. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate that over there on Odyssey. Okay. So let me get to Jackie, a first-time caller in Denver, Colorado. Jackie in Denver, how are you?
Hi. Well, I've been better.
Oh, yeah?
How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you. Are you still there?
I was.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm sorry. I was
problem.
calling into your show to share a story about corruption in the liberal Denver family court system.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. My ex took me to court in order to force me to sign off on my at the time 11 and 12-year-olds getting the unapproved COVID. I'm using air quotes right now, which you can't see when I say the word vaccine. But
Yeah.
whatever. I digress. I wanted to share this story because I hired a lawyer to go to bat for me, and 1 week before the trial, he backed out. He said that it's something that he doesn't feel comfortable with after using up all the money in the retainer that I gave him.
Wow.
He said it's something that he doesn't feel comfortable with going to trial. It's a lost cause. I should just allow it. It's best for my children. So I immediately looked for another attorney, and I found an attorney who was very against the vaccine and, understood and read the VAERS data that was coming out. And
VAERS, for the people's benefit, VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System.
Yeah.
There was a lot of VAERS data that he understood. Okay.
So, I'm sorry. He had agreed to represent me, so my first attorney turned into the to the court a document saying that he wants to remove himself, and the second attorney that I hired turned in a request to become a representation.
Okay.
And the judge ignored these requests and didn't respond until the day before the trial, saying, "Oh, well, it's too late now."
Wow. What a I want to say jerk, but I don't want to be a bad example to the kids.
exactly. I haven't even touched the worst parts of this.
Okay.
During the start of the trial, the magistrate, Karen Hubler of Denver, Colorado, again, don't harass her. That's what you said earlier.
Right.
She, during the very beginning of the trial, she approved my first lawyer's request to remove himself from the trial, but she would not approve my second attorney's request to become my representation. So she forced me to represent myself during the trial. At any time that I was able to speak or object, I just kept repeating the following. I just kept saying, I'm not required to go forward without an attorney. I have a Sixth Amendment right to an attorney. I'm not at fault for my prior attorney's decision to withdraw.
Yeah.
I cannot prepare or defend any evidence in this case as I am not a lawyer. I don't understand the rules of evidence. I don't understand how to cross-examine. I don't understand how to litigate a case. It would be a representable error to require me to move forward without an attorney. I cannot proceed. I object to you forcing me to move forward.
Uh-huh.
And she just continuously violated my constitutional right in going forward with the hearing without allowing me to have an opportunity to retain the new counsel. Any time that I actually voiced a legitimate concern and objected to be required to proceed, she informed me that I was required to go forward and that I had no other option. She didn't allow me to have any objections. Any time that I did object to anything, she would refer to my legitimate objections as being a disturbance or disturbing to the court. She allowed my ex's experts that he had to testify, despite the fact that they were not properly disclosed as required.
Oh.
The magistrate even allowed exhibits into the record that I had never been given beforehand, that I had never seen or reviewed.
Yeah.
And as someone that's not a lawyer, I need the evidence ahead of time to properly object, as if she was allowing me to object at all. She continued to mute me during the proceedings, and she didn't allow me to have a voice at all during the legitimate objection.
Man,
inadmissible. What's that? I'm sorry.
Man, the courts are so messed up.
They're so corrupt, and in my opinion, as someone who's not a lawyer, is that it just feels like the educational system and the government has been trying to not educate children on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and what is actually in the Constitution.
To me, it's such a racket that they require lawyers in court. I think they should ban lawyers from courts.
If they banned lawyers, then it's people like me just kind of babbling up there, not knowing what to say, not knowing when.
I know,
to say
but we need to
things.
ban the lawyers who become judges too.
That is very true.
I don't know. I mean, clearly, just evil has taken over the courts and the families. Honestly, they've taken over the families. How are your children today? If you don't mind my asking, how are they doing?
The 11-year-old is actually doing really well. He only had some minor headaches on the first day, but my oldest, who was 12 at the time and had recently turned 13, is not doing well. She's been going to many different types of doctors, and nobody is really taking any action or doing anything. She has these horrible migraine headaches just constantly. She does have some lulls during the day where she has some ease, but nothing is really helping it. She has these really horrible headaches, and she's having numbness in her feet, especially her right foot.
Wow.
And I was able to find one doctor who was willing to give her a dimer test to see if she had any blood clotting.
And so is it your ex-husband, their father?
Yeah.
And so he forced them to get it? Did they want it?
Well, they're children, and they don't really understand, but I had talked to them about it and why Mommy doesn't want them to get it. And what I told my children was, there hasn't been sufficient testing on this.
Yeah,
and
no long-term studies. Right.
Exactly, zero.
So,
I said, you're more than likely.
But they wanted, did they want to, in their minds, they thought that they wanted to?
I don't really know because, children tell their parents what they think that they want to hear. So they told me that they would rather wait just to be safe. But I mean, their children, they're going to go along with whatever their parents want. And their dad was granted the right to control their health care decisions from here on out. The judge granted him that ability. I mean,
well, I guess you just have to put up with it, and your children, his children, live with the consequences. Nothing you can do now, right?
But we don't.
What don't you have to do?
We don't have to agree with what the government tells us to do. The government is not here to tell us what to do. We control the government, and that's what we
ideally we do, but that's not the case. What happened. So clearly you don't control the government.
Well, my children already received the vaccine, and one of my children are having really horrible side effects, and it is a bell that cannot be unrung.
I know.
But I currently have a magistrate review open against that judge. And
nice.
My intent on contacting radio shows and podcasts and people of influence, my intent is to share this story and to tell people that you do have the right. The government does not control us. Magistrate Karen Hubler in Denver, Colorado, if anyone's interested.
Have you been listening? Have you been one to listen to my show?
I actually have not listened to your show very much.
Are you a JLP listener?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nice. Well, I appreciate the call.
I just want to tell people out there that we can do things, and that we do have a voice, and that we should not roll over and just accept things that the government is doing to us, and that we need to understand that we control the government, and the Constitution does give us rights as American citizens that we need to voice. We really need to collectively get together to voice our concerns and to say together, this is not okay. It's not okay that our rights are continuously being stomped on.
What happened between you and your husband? If you don't mind my asking, if it's not personal.
Oh, no. I share anything.
What went wrong?
Are you saying... Oh,
or what did you do wrong in your marriage?
It took me years. If you asked me at the beginning what went wrong, I would say he cheated on me, and ultimately he.
But what did you do wrong once after the years that you finally realized that you were wrong in it?
What I did wrong was that I didn't realize that we have two completely different communication styles, and.
That sounds innocent. That sounds too innocent, Jackie.
Oh, no.
Okay, all right. Go ahead and say what. In short, I have to move on soon. So just in short, what did you do wrong? Because that's a precursor to the story. That's not what went wrong. The communication style.
I raised my voice when I felt like I wasn't heard, and that made him feel belittled and kind of caused him to check out on the marriage. And, that's something that I have since learned is not okay. Even if you feel like you're not important enough, even if you feel like you're not heard. It's not okay to ever raise your voice to the other person.
I don't know about that, Jackie. I don't know if it's wrong to raise your voice sometimes. There's a time to raise your voice, but because that doesn't sound wrong. Were you impatient? Were you angry? Were you looking down on him, judging him?
I felt like I wasn't being heard, and I was possibly a little too aggressive with saying, like, I just want you to hear the words that I'm saying. You don't have to agree with me. And when I would raise my voice,
possibly a little too aggressive.
Yes, no, definitely.
So you don't know? Okay, definitely too aggressive. I'm not trying to force you to say you definitely were. I just because it sounds like you.
No, it definitely was. It definitely was. I should have just respected that he doesn't want to talk about anything ever.
It sounds like a backhanded way of blaming him all over again.
No. I have since changed my communication style.
But it's not a matter of communication style, Jackie. It's a matter of your spirit, your heart. It takes two to tango. I get that maybe he's weak. It sounds like if he wanted to force the vax on the kids and just listen to what he's told from, these people in the media and the government and stuff, then maybe he has some weaknesses himself. Most of the time, men do. But you want to, for me, it's kind of cringy for women to, if you will allow me to say it, to get all involved in these political fights and stuff. I get your right to go to court and fight your case, but now you're on a mission to fight this fight, and it's not like you're wrong in what you're saying. We are supposed to control the government, and we are supposed to fight back and spread the word and blare the alarm. So you're not wrong to call in my show about it. But for me, you want to check yourself too, because otherwise you'll be one of those cringy lady conservatives who just gets mocked, and you won't be effective that way. You want to be able to check yourself and really see where you go wrong or where you are wrong.
Well, I definitely do.
Because we have to overcome evil with good. But if you don't have good in you, you're not going to be able to overcome the evil. We're effectively, in reality, I mean, in the present times, you clearly demonstrated that you have no say over your government. Your government has say over your children. Because you and your husband couldn't work it out.
The problem is that they don't have say. They overstep their boundaries, and we as American people need to collectively get together to say, no, this is not okay. The Constitution is written down. If you want to take those rights from us, you need to create an amendment.
Perhaps you might have been more protected, though, had you been different.
Had I not
with your husband.
Allowed him to cheat on me? I don't really understand where you're getting at with this.
See, you're not admitting where you did wrong.
You kind of lost me there. So
I asked you where you went wrong, and you roundaboutly blamed him, claiming you had a bad communication style.
No, we don't have similar communication in the slightest.
I know, but that's not the problem.
That's something that we should have worked out before we even decided to have children.
Or get married, maybe.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. One comes before the other, right?
Yeah.
Typically.
Interesting call. So I lost you there when I pointed it back at you? Because you just turned around and blamed him for your marriage going wrong.
You kind of lost me, because this is not an issue about where our marriage went wrong.
But it is, because had your marriage stayed right, maybe he would have listened to your concerns. But you drove him off, and he may have been wrong.
Oh my God. there are bits of this story that are left out.
I don't care that it's left out, but the bit of the story that you're leaving out is what you seem blind to your own wrong.
He begged for me back. He begged for me back years after he ended the relationship. And I told him, I said,
but this is irrelevant.
You showed me. Yeah, but this is somebody who he said he didn't realize what he had until it was gone, and that he had gone through the process of dating other people, and that dating process led him to come to the conclusion that he had something better in front of him that he let go, or that, he didn't appreciate. And I thought about it, and I thought about it is better to keep children together and to keep families together. I just could not. It was years later after the fact, and I said, I can't get there again. I can't. And I said, I'm really sorry.
Wow.
And I said, I would have never left this marriage. I would have continued. I would have preferred to continue to work on it. But I said, I can't go backwards.
Wow, that's so interesting. So you couldn't forgive him?
No, and I tried to.
Right, but there's no trying. There is no try. So he admitted he was wrong, and you couldn't. And now your children are suffering, or one of them.
Well, it was years later. Years later, he wanted
not that many years. Not that many years. If your children are only 12 and you had them after you were married.
Yeah, my son was 1 when all of that happened. But 3 years after
my point is, yeah, it's wrong that the government does evil things. But if we are righteous, we're less likely to be suffering the consequences of that. If we are more righteous, we are less likely to suffer the consequences of the evil government. And even you perhaps, had you been a faithful Christian, you might have been able to be a light to your husband instead of darkness to him. You laugh. Are you laughing because this is laughable, or are you laughing because it's true?
I'm laughing because it's laughable. I'm sorry.
Why are you? You're not sorry.
Any more time? No, I really wish that I weren't laughing. Honestly, I do want to be respectful to you and your show. It's
no, it's fine. You're just showing us what you're really like.
No, this is someone who has literally told my science.
You just admitted that you couldn't forgive, and you couldn't keep a marriage together for the children.
Yeah. This is somebody who told my son that he has to pick science or God. He can't believe in both. So
you can say all you want about you can talk all the trash you want about your ex-husband, but you're a mess yourself.
Okay, agreed.
And so don't be all one of those cringy. Well, this is my advice, unsolicited advice. Don't be one of those cringy ladies on this crusade when you're not right yourself. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'll try to be less cringy when I try to explain to people their constitutional rights.
Yeah. Stay shallow.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Never check yourself, Jackie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Stay sarcastic too. What a mess. Anyway. Terrible. To me, it's really obnoxious when these people get on a kick. They suffer from some wrong thing that happens to them, and yeah, it's wrong. It reminds me of that guy who's an actor. He was in Back to the Future, and he got Parkinson's disease. And all of a sudden, he became an anti-Parkinson's disease guy. Trying to overcome the Parkinson's disease thing. And I get it. You suffer something, you want to help other people with it. All of a sudden, oh my gosh, this is a thing. But, I mean, I don't know much about Michael J. Fox. Or if he checked himself, if he became a Christian and stuff like that. And the Parkinson's disease may not be his fault in that case. But there is so typical of a woman to be like, oh, this warrior thing in politics. This warrior thing in politics, and then they're a headache at home. I'll try to be less cringy when telling people to fight for their constitutional rights. Like, we want to listen to you. Just calling my show. Doesn't even listen to my show. Just using me. But no, you can call me again sometime. I appreciate it. Whatever your name was from Denver. Let me get to Joe in Idaho. Joe, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good.
Nice.
I don't think you commented on the drag kids show in Texas the other day, did you?
No, that was disgusting. I saw on Twitter, and I'm like, you know, there are lines sometimes that I won't cross, and sometimes I will cross them to disgust you guys and gross you out. But that was just, I don't know, I couldn't do it. Yeah. I saw, so the scene, to describe the scene, what I saw on Twitter was, people, this is not California or New York, this is Texas. And it was this scene, and it was, we did play it on the Jesse Lee Peterson show, not we as in me, but the crew here played this scene, I think, on the Jesse Lee Peterson show yesterday, and it said something tongue or lick or something like that, and it drags stuff for kids. And it's these children in like this bar or club thing in Texas, and this slutty thing dancing around all like so supposedly provocative, I guess, doing the splits and marching around, being like a striptease type show thing.
Yeah.
Except maybe not stripping, but being like all dressed in like vulgar, half-naked attire.
Yeah, scantily clad.
And just filthy in front of kids and adults.
Yeah, it's basically burlesque, but even worse because it's transvestite burlesque.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, they're just one step away from actually stripping. They're wearing very, sexualized clothing. They're acting in sexualized way. They had a big neon sign on the back wall that said it's not going to lick itself.
Right.
Excuse me for saying that.
Right.
But that's what it said. I mean, that's completely, and it's a bar that I think people were drinking alcohol. Completely inappropriate to have children there. There were even toddlers. I mean, it was just disgusting. All these perverts, dancing around like as if they were in a strip club, and the kids were encouraged to give them money.
Yeah.
I mean, basically it was just like one step away from actually being a strip club, and just disgusting. And there needs to be laws passed to not allow that sort of thing.
I mean, it seems like there are already like indecency or vulgarity, I'm blanking on the real word, laws on the books. I've heard from many people.
Yeah, I think it's illegal to have children inside of a bar. I think that's actually illegal. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I know that the police there had said something to the effect of it's a venue. It's not considered a bar. It's a venue just like any other venue.
Yeah.
But, so.
But that's beside the point, because the situation of a bar is the fact that there's alcohol served, and it's specifically for alcohol, and they may be technically right, but the question is, should they be even around this sex and gender disgusting stuff? And that's really the issue.
It's completely inappropriate behavior. Anything that's sexual like that should be against the law. to have that performed in front of children. And I think there are some politicians now who are trying to pass bills or get bills passed where it's illegal to perform drag in front of children.
Yeah.
Which that's what it should be. It should be illegal to do that, to do drag in front of kids. That's just wrong.
Right.
You know, because it's almost always very sexualized.
Yep.
You know, whenever you see that,
it's like satanic too. They look like demons oftentimes.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. It's probably extremely confusing for these little kids.
They do it
when they're seeing this.
They're going to even the library stuff, the drag queen story hour stuff.
Yep, story hour. Yeah, so
it is
completely
sick.
Inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, disgusting.
Terrible, man. Awful.
Yeah. And it's you know, if you notice, they're doing it one little step at a time. First it was drag queen story hour in libraries. Now they're having these events in bars where they're, you know, children are giving these people money to dance. And you know, what's next? What's going to be next? Actual stripping? Is that coming next?
Yeah.
You know,
it is.
There's gonna.
You know,
in Idaho. Oh, go ahead.
I noticed that I noticed that they sexualize children young and try to make them perverted at a young age, and they sexualize old people, all old. They try to extend that lostness long into the childhood where they're innocent and into the old folks who are supposed to be dignified and past that stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to be, even in our prime, we're supposed to be able to be self-controlled in that world and remember dignity in God. So.
Yeah. There's very little dignity left anymore.
Yeah. Or common sense. Women.
Or, yeah. Yep.
I appreciate it, Joe.
Sure.
I got your email. I appreciate that. I shall.
Okay.
I'll mention it to. I'll mention it to Chris here too.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
I know you didn't want me to send that, but because you were talking about how I look,
yeah.
I thought, well, I'll just send you a picture and you can see it.
Nice.
That's simple.
I wasn't going to mention the fact that it was a picture because we're not showing it publicly because you asked not to.
Oh yeah, no, and I wouldn't want you to.
Right.
But yeah.
But you know what? It's funny because I totally pictured you differently, but then when I saw the picture of you, it made sense. The voice that comes out of you. It's kind of like it's kind of like when you see, you hear Mike Tyson's voice and you see Mike Tyson, you're like, what? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not that you sound exactly like Mike Tyson, but anyway.
Right. But when you say I look like how I sound, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a fine thing. It's not a problem.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Although I appreciate that you considered it and changed your mind about us mocking old, decrepit, looking Nancy Pelosi for looking old and decrepit and scary and like death.
Yeah. I did change my mind. I decided that that's okay.
Nice. I appreciate it, Joe. Good to hear from you, man.
All right. You take it easy.
All right. You too. Take care. Whew. You know, before I get to more calls, let me play this interesting clip that I came across. Cover your ears, guys, because this is going to be obnoxious. Hopefully, I turned down the audio loud to be quiet enough. But you're going to hear ringing of apparently inside of a store when stuff is stolen outside of a store. If there's a tag that crosses that sensor out the front door or something, it'll start ringing in your ears and being. Well, apparently, this is the new daily life in America. Ant-Man 0528, Ant-Man 0528 tweeted this video saying, is this the new daily life in America? This is clip 10. 10, guys. Hey, it's not always clip 11. Blacks, I think it's 2 ladies, and I use the term ladies loosely, black ladies, apparently stealing jewelry or perfume or something out of a store. Watch this clip. It's 1 minute and 16 seconds long, and it's mostly all or worse. Sorry, I can't imitate the sound, but you'll hear it. Hopefully it's not too screechy. And I'll talk over it to keep the noise down, hopefully. Listen to this and watch, hopefully. Watch, if you can.
On this episode of Identify the Thieves.
It's a TikTok video. This is a person taking video of, look at this. This is a black lady, I think it's a lady, taking stuff off the shelf and putting it in her purse. And I wish that Disney employee who snatched the ring out of that guy's hands would have showed up and snatched the purse out of this lady's purse. She's just going shopping, looting, keeping her Oh my gosh, the shamelessness. She's not totally shameless because she put her head down. She's wearing a hat. She's running out into the beautiful North Little Rock, Arkansas. Ran away and terrible, huh? And there's another lady. She jumped into her. Whoa. There's a black lady, presumably black, I'm assuming. Profiling here. Picking up her stuff, dropping it on the parking lot. Terrible, huh? Terrible. And she just runs away into the parking lot, Now she's this lady who took video. I presume it's a lady who took video. I don't think I'll subject you to that a second time, but that was crazy, huh? If you were watching the video. Let me play this clip 11 from yesterday. Imagine if this employee were to have snatched these shoplifters' bags and directed her to the checkout line. Right here. It's even better right here. Because this Disneyland Paris employee temporarily stole the engagement ring out of this male's hand as he was proposing to his girlfriend in this viral video that I showed to you guys yesterday. Imagine that. Imagine if he'd done that. I don't know if he would have gotten away with it, but it would have been awesome. I'm in my imagination. Maybe it's a dumb thing, but here's this 20-second video that I played yesterday. Imagine if this had been the case when these people are stealing in America. Listen to this, or watch. Obnoxious ladies. Right there. Look, stealing. That's what he should have done. Come to the checkout line and pay for those stuff that you're trying to steal. Come pay for it.
Yes, that's great, but over here, she's gonna be even better.
Over here, even better. Anyway, that's just a dumb little joke thing that I thought would be cute. Hope you liked it. Do you want to be disgusted? Let me disgust you one more quick time before I get back to calls. Happy birthday, says Magic Johnson. Happy 30th birthday to my incredible son, EJ. I am so honored and blessed to have you as my son. Heart emoji. And that's his tweet. Magic Johnson tweeted. Magic Johnson, formerly of the LA Lakers. He's a former Lakers star. I used to like him. And I didn't used to like Larry Bird. Did I put the picture in the folder? Cover your eyes, kids. Go out of the room. I thought this was his wife at first because I didn't read the caption. Like, man, his wife looks kind of mannish. But no, it's his incredible son, EJ. Incredible is right. Magic Johnson. Irvin Magic Johnson's son, EJ, is Irvin Johnson III. Born in 1992, and dresses like that. Like a female. Like a I can't say that word slutty, can I? I said it. Oops. I said it twice already by accident. And there's his... He thought about turning transgender too after Bruce Jenner did that. You know, fake transitioning. But he's very effeminate, known to be like androgynous, and he's like not basically not that morally straight. He was raised in a Pentecostal Christian so-called faith. He has an older brother, Andre, too, and a younger sister, Eliza? I don't know. But look at it. Terrible. Not good. Ugh. Oh, it makes me want to spit. Those are gross screenshots from his Instagram. Don't harass him, guys. Or gals. Obviously. But it's at EJ Johnson _. But don't harass him. No hate speech. Yeah, Magic Johnson. Remember he got those AIDS? And when he got those AIDS, that white Jewish owner of the Los Angeles Clippers stood by him. Donald Sterling, multiple time winner of the NAACP award type stuff and other evil things. But Magic Johnson turned around and threw him under the bus after he said, "Don't hang around blacks," to his female friend V. Stiviano. That's a side note. But anyway, yeah, they use blacks. Blacks are willing participants in this LGBTIQ culture. They are. I mean, granted, his Magic Johnson, what can he do? His son turned out all messed up because he was maybe messed up, right? But he's like, man, he's putting that out on social media. Ugh. I'm shaking my head, and there's a lot of black transgenders, like some of the most famous transgenders, so-called, are black. Blah. Not good. Let me quickly get to Art in Ohio. Art, how are you doing?
Man, Hake, doggy dog, what it do with my main man, Nick and Hake, Daniel, Joel, and Jesse, man.
What about Chris? What is he, chopped liver?
Well, I had something to say about Chris earlier.
Oh, right on.
He was on, who was that, Joe you were talking to earlier?
Yeah, Joe from Phoenix, that's right. So-called Joe.
Hey, he unleashed the Alpha Gatling gun on that man.
Indeed. That's a good description. He says thanks.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And just imagine Artie telling Hake taking Chris's ring and telling him to come on over here. Come over here. Come on. It's like just like you said when the females in there stealing out the store with maybe we had his sweet fun boy stuff. Come on over here and pay for it at this line. You don't have to steal because us gay communists gonna take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible.
What's that lady's name that you got off the phone with?
I forget what her name was, but from Denver. The lady from Denver.
Rashid is going, well, come here, Denver, because we're going to go ahead and hit
Jackie.
you with a stone cold stunner. Jackie?
Yeah.
Jackie from Denver?
Mm-hmm.
You might not be listening to this, Jackie, because you don't listen to no alpha shows or whatnot. Come here at Denver. You're going to take this L, and we're going to go ahead and stone cold stunner Denver real quick for letting her get up on the dang on phone. Honey, just like Hake said, when you was just on here laughing about whatever you was laughing about, when it really wasn't even nothing funny, you just showed us why your husband left you. Second, the course ain't for men.
Right.
So you calling up here complaining to us, we already know the course ain't for men. So you must have really did something wrong in that courtroom for the judge to go against you, because I know judges go against no females.
Well, I think what it is the courts have a bias, perhaps, towards towards the forced vax stuff. Is my guess, but I don't know. It was a mess.
Don't you think it's awfully kind of funny that she don't watch your show, so
right.
She clearly don't know. So she clearly don't know what angle you coming from. But it's awfully kind of funny that you talking about telling Alpha Art from Columbus, Ohio, that he needs to stand up because they vibe. Well, honey, you don't need to tell me this. Well, I've been seeing this 8, 9, probably when I was 12, 13 years old. I'm 36 years old, sweetie. Only reason why everything is so lopsided is because they let females into politics and letting them be judges.
Fair
That's
point.
the only reason why all this. only reason why they up here violating all these men's rights. Because y'all don't. Yeah. So I'm done with that. So you barking up liberals for killing each other and going against each other. We ain't worried about you. We gonna let y'all destroy y'all still.
And
so God bless you. Right?
Thank you, man. And you and I have disagreed about the fighting in the courts stuff because I tend to agree with JLP that once you lose your kids, let them go, because men spend so much money and time and energy fighting in the courts, and the courts are just outright against what's right. And she's right. The courts are against what's right.
Yes, they are. But guess what? Hey, you're going to be surprised, buddy. You spoke too soon because I changed my way of looking out on that, too. I'm with Jesse, too, on that.
Oh, really?
I'm not. Yes, I have.
Good for you, man.
Because I seen my son or whatnot about a couple days ago or whatnot, and I come to realize he's about to be going on 12 or whatnot. He don't want to really be around me because they don't broke him from me. So it's like just like y'all said, don't be wasting and spending your money or whatnot down there because they ain't doing up a pimp in the men.
You stay right. You get yourself in order, and you may well get your son back after he's an adult.
Yeah, or somewhere about his 15, 16. You right facts.
Yep. So
hey, God got
it starts with you, and that's what I was trying to point out to Jackie. Is it starts with you. It's even with the fighting evil. We have to fight evil in ourselves, too.
Well, tell Jackie what her daddy loose for the Father God told me to tell her that God got the whole world in his hands.
Nice.
Yes, he do. And he got all our kids in his hands, too. So this good over evil. What goes up must come down. But Father God bless you. You keep strong or whatnot. I'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds good. Art, I appreciate you, man. Take care.
Catch you later. Yes, sir. Bye.
All right, bye. Guys, this has been the Hake Report. Richard in San Francisco, California, one of my new favorite callers, wanted to talk about the drag kids. Richard, call me tomorrow if you can. I cannot get to you. And Rick in Hampton, Virginia, wanted to talk about them using the kids to push so-called gun control laws. So evil. Thank you, Rick in Hampton, Virginia. You have to call me tomorrow or whenever I am on air again. I am so out of time. And all of you guys, all the rest of the callers, I appreciate it. Let me read I think there was another super chat. Brandon M. said, I harass every account Hake posts. Thanks for the entertainment, Hake. Well, thank you, Brandon M. He harasses with harassment for Christ. Right? Well, thank you guys. This has been the Hake Report. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. And I'm going to be on a New Zealand show today, but I don't think it'll be live. But you can check out thehakereport.com/appearances for info on that. Thank you, and take care. Adios.